this morning. Yay! I'm the other one. I'm going to be the last one to ask you, I promise. When I was beginning to research doing this talk, I had a lot of people offer me advice about how to not be nervous, because I am a little bit. And a friend of mine said that, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. And you've definitely talked for 10,000 hours. And I think maybe yesterday you talked at least 10,000 hours. So I feel a little prepared for this. He also said that if I was really nervous, I should picture all of you naked. Sorry about that. But he also said that if I had problems picturing that he would, at a signal, take his clothes off so I wouldn't have to actually, pretend. So for a few of you, I'm very sorry. For the rest of you, you're welcome. So for me, back to the story of the singing, I was surreal. The surreal life for me is I do cook for a lot of celebrities and famous people, and a lot of times I'm in a kitchen and you hear someone singing. It happens to be Bono, and he's singing a song you've never heard before, with your name in it, and that's just a normal daily life for what I do, but that came about after many, many years of trials, tribulations, odd jobs, interesting career moves. I went to school when I was just fresh out of high school, and then I went to Austin. I lived in a tiny little town. I'm being mic'd again. I lived in a tiny town. I grew up in a little tiny town where no one ever leaves. And usually a lot of people, you stay there your whole life. Family, stay with them. Generations of people, they just never leave this small town. And so to get out was a big deal, to leave, to go elsewhere. So when I left and went to Austin for school the first time, it was a big leap. And I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have a lot of people around. So I did attempt college the first time, horribly, and decided that it wasn't for me right away, and went to work for Dell Computers, which everyone in Austin at the time was doing. I think most of my family worked for Dell at one point or another. And I built laptops and repaired laptops, and it was a lot of fun for about 3 months until I got really bored with it, and it was very monotonous. And in my spare time, I decided to color code the entire assembly line, and just because that's what you do. And so a year and a half later, I was a little bit, disenchanted with the whole experience, and moved on to working as a beverage cart attendant at a local golf course, which was a very fun job. One of the only jobs I'll get up at 6 a.m. to do, because I get to play golf afterwards. So that was about 2 years of my life, but I knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. Of course, you can't make a living slinging beer at a golf course, so I decided to give my 2 weeks notice and pack my bags, and in 2 weeks move to Los Angeles. I got here with my car, my things, and a place to live. I had no job, no prospects, had no idea what I wanted to do. So I did what everyone else does in LA when you get here, and you print out 50 resumes to be a server, and you go find all the restaurants to pass out your resume to, because that's just the normal go-to job here whenever you arrive in LA. So my first place I went to was Marmalade Cafe on Ventura Boulevard. And I'm not exactly interview ready. I'm wearing a t-shirt, some jeans, and some bright blue tennis shoes. And to say that my resume was sparse would be an understatement. I didn't have a lot of serving experience at all, mostly just cocktail and, of course, the golf court experience at the golf course. So I walked in, and the bartender was there, and I gave him my resume, and he laughed. He was like, really? You're not really a server, are you? I'm like, I just kind of, sometimes, but not really. And he's like, well, we are doing interviews today, so, you're in luck. Sit down. And I'm like, well, I'm not really ready to, talk to people. And he's like, well, I think you might as well just do it since you're here. So I did, and it went well. I met some really lovely people. It was nice to, not have that scary moment of, people in LA aren't friendly or welcoming, and I felt really welcomed in this place, in this restaurant. And I left, and I was really happy about the way it went. I was really happy that it was over and I'd gotten my first one under my belt because I figured, okay, well, I can go to the next one and I'll be more confident about, my really crappy resume. And I got in the car and drove away, and as I drove away, they called me back and said, can you work tonight? I said, yeah, I can do that. He's like, do you have anything black? I said, yeah, I can find something black. And they said, do you have black shoes? And I thought, oh, well, the only black shoes I have are these high boots. They're like a 3-inch heel. And so I worked my first night as a server in 3-inch heels. Never again. I went and bought shoes the next day immediately that were much more comfortable. But that was my first, actual foray into being in a restaurant. And I loved the energy. I loved being on that side of it and being just meeting new people every day and getting the opportunity to, just kind of be myself and be authentic and, just help people nourish themselves, basically. I mean, when you see people eat, you actually do feel a sense of pride in a way. And there's a train. It's not distracting at all. So I was there for 3 months, and one of the regulars that came in, there was these 2 or 3 guys that worked across the street, and they were like, well, we're looking for an executive assistant. Would you be interested in coming, to work for us? And I said, well, yeah, that would be interesting. So I went there, interviewed with them. They had a really interesting company making infomercials for some fun products. And I worked with them as an executive assistant, and a few months later they promoted me to work for the marketing department, where I was in charge of helping with the creation of a cookbook for one of their products. And some of you may know this product because I'm sure you all have it on your counter. It's the Magic Bullet, the personal, versatile countertop magician. So I was tasked with creating the 101 recipes cookbook for that, and then I found my love for creating recipes and writing about food and helping people to make their lives a little bit easier by just blending it and throwing it in the microwave. So that was kind of an interesting step as well. Still at this point, I have no idea that I'm going to eventually be getting into cooking. This is just one of those random jobs that you think is just on your steps to the way of being in marketing. Turns out, not a big fan of marketing. So after that, I went on to do media buying. I worked in fashion. I was actually an optometric tech for a while. So that was an interesting job, poking people's eyeballs and telling them to put contact lenses in their eyes. It's very strange. Then what did I do? Accounting, bookkeeping. I worked in finance. I did all kinds of crazy jobs. And then my last one was in HR, which, if anyone's ever worked in HR, I'm sorry. It's probably the most mundane, boring job on the planet. And one day after being in this environment and just completely not fitting in at all, I came home. I was just completely, I had no words, honestly. It was just miserable, and every day was misery going to this job. And I came home and my boyfriend at the time said, you're not happy. You're never happy when you come home. Why are you doing this? Why did you keep this job? And I'm like, well, it's a job. It's nice to have a job. Eventually I'll move on to something else, in the company, hopefully. But I need to have, a thing to do. And he's like, well, why don't you just go back to school and find something that you love to do? I was like, well, I could, but I've done everything. What am I going to do? What am I going to go to school for? He's like, well, you love cooking. And I was like, no. Cooking is my thing. Cooking is my zen. Cooking is the thing that I do when I get home from a crappy day, and it recenters me. It makes me feel good. It makes me happy. It's the thing that I love the most to do. And if I try to make that a job, then I'll end up hating it like everything else that I've done. And I just couldn't fathom hating the thing that I loved, so much. So eventually, he wore me down, and I ended up going back to school. I went to LA Trade Tech in Los Angeles, downtown, which is an amazing program. They are all very supportive. I learned so much. It was 2 very long years, but I had gone back in my late 20s, and so for my 30th birthday, I got my degree, which was fantastic. It's kind of like a present to myself. And then I started working for Bottega Louis. I opened that restaurant. I actually opened it as a server, and the kitchen found out that I was in culinary school, and they were like, you're going to come work in the kitchen. So they totally insisted that I change. I'm like, well, you know, the kitchen people don't make as much money as the tips that I was going to make at serving, so we got to work something out here. So I worked with them. They were great mentors. My head chef there was one of the best chefs on the planet, and he was always very encouraging. When he would show you how to do something, it would be, this is the way that if it was perfect for me, it would look. And I've always taken that with me when I'm teaching other people. You know, if it was going to be perfect for me, this is how this should be done. But definitely not a mean way, not a way that, you know, you did that wrong. You've been, you know, you need to correct this. It was very nurturing and very loving. And I think for me, I've taken that away as well whenever I teach people. I transitioned from that to the JW Marriott Ritz-Carlton when they built that, and I opened that hotel. And it was a polar opposite of the experience that I had at Louis. My boss was not a nice person. He was one of those tyrant chefs that you hear about, throwing pots and pans and going into rages. And one particular day, he went into a tirade because I was going to be a little bit over my time, and I couldn't do overtime. So I'm doing like 5 frittatas for the next morning for breakfast in this thing called a combi oven. And it's an interesting oven. It has like a dry and a wet heat. So and everybody knew this, when you open the oven, you have to stand back because this steam comes out of it. And it's really hot. I mean, it's super hot steam. So one day when he's yelling at me about being late, I open the oven and I don't step back. And I steamed half my face. And typically when that happens, you put a little burn cream on and you go about your day. But that particular day, I looked at him and I said, I think I'm gonna need the burn cream. And he says, I think you need to go see the ER people. And I was like, oh, okay. And turns out I had 2nd and 3rd degree burns all over this side of my face. And I had to go to the burn unit, and they, you know, gave me a bunch of different things to do. I had to sleep sitting up for 3 months. I couldn't go outside because of the sun, and that pretty much took me out of cooking. So my worst fear actually came true, that I was not going to be able to cook ever again, and the thing that I loved the most was going to be something that I couldn't ever do again. So I dealt with that. And 3 months sitting in your house when you can't leave, you really go through a lot of things and a lot of emotions and a lot of, you know, what ifs and what am I going to do now? And it's very trying. And so I had to deal with a lot of things. Miraculously, when a doctor tells you to remove this gauze, put this cream on, and do all of these things, and it's your face, you do what the doctor says every time. And so when I went back for my checkup at the end, he was like, I don't know how you healed as well as you did. And he's like, I've never seen anyone heal this well. I'm like, well, I did everything you said to do to the nth degree because I did not want to, you know, have any, you know, issues with my face again. And I want to be able to cook again. I want to be able to, you know, get back out there and, you know, not be affected by heat. So after a few months, I was able to get back in the kitchen again, which was great. They had me on the cold line because I couldn't be anywhere near the stoves or the ovens. And I gradually was able to get back into cooking like some things. And then eventually it healed completely and I had a face again, which was great. But a few months after that happened and I, you know, went through all of the what ifs in my brain, I got a phone call from a friend of a friend, and he was like, I have this friend, she's a private chef, and her husband just got a job out of state, and they have to leave immediately, so she needs to replace herself in this home for this family. Would you be interested in doing it? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, anything to get out of this place right now would be amazing. So I went to this interview with her and I chatted with her and she was basically, the interview wasn't really an interview, it was more just like, are you not a crazy person? and can you cook? Because I need you to get in there like right now. She did like do a little slip because she wasn't really supposed to tell me who it was for right away until I went to go meet them. And she said, well, you know, Demi likes this. And I was like, wait. There's only a few people in the world named Demi. And if I know anything about private chefs, especially in LA, I know that a lot of them work for people that are famous. So I'm thinking to myself, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, okay, does she mean Demi Moore? And I was like, okay. And then she said Ashton, and I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. And so, of course, then I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, yes, I can cook, but I don't know how to cook for these people. Like, they're these people. And so I just remember walking into the house for the first time, and I'm so nervous, probably more nervous than I am right now, honestly. But, and I know how to cook. So I'm there, and they're lovely people, and I ended up cooking for them and a few of their other friends who are also, famous people. And they're sitting in the kitchen like any normal family would, and I'm just a part of, their family that day and cooking for them like I would my family, honestly. And it was just, for lack of a better word, very surreal. And I got to do amazing parties for them. I worked for them for a year and a half. I was a part of birthdays and Christmas and all the normal things that everybody does, and you just think, wow, this is just totally normal, but totally not normal at the same time. And from then, I went on to cook for quite a few other people in the interim. Russel Brand being one of them, who was always my favorite. Every time he would come in to the kitchen, because I would get there usually before him, and then he would drive up, and he'd come in the kitchen, and he'd come in, he was like, okay, come on, let's have a cuddle, and give me the biggest hug, every single time. He was so funny about that. He would just sit in the kitchen and talk to me the whole time I was cooking, and just like you would in your kitchen, honestly. And so this kind of became a thing where you just get more and more comfortable just being in this space in other people's homes and in their lives, just because they're friendly and they're just like your family that you would hang out with in your kitchen. So one day I get another phone call, and it was from a couple that I used to work for. And well, we have some people coming in from out of town. They're recording an album. We would like for you to cook for them for the month that they're here recording. I said, okay, that's cool, sounds great. He's like, well, it's going to be in this little space. The kitchen's not great because the space is a little, antiquated. It was a very old, an old home that they converted into a studio. And they're like, well, so I'll send you over all of their dietary restrictions and whatnot. And I get the list, and it's like, Bono, Edge. I'm like, what? Who am I cooking for again? Wait a minute. Up until this point, I have no idea who this is. And then I'm like, oh, okay. My 18-year-old self at the concert in the third row is going, oh my God, I'm gonna cook for these people that are up here on the stage. And so, of course, you have to keep that inside, which is a little more difficult when Bono walks into the room and he goes, Enchante, and I'm like, okay. Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, so that was a very interesting experience as well, and to be a part of that experience. So we were at Shangri-La up in Malibu, and it was, you hear them recording the whole time. So every new song, everything that they're doing over and over and over again, I knew the album backward and forward before, I was out of there. And just to be a part of that process, to know that you're feeding these people and nourishing them so that they can go and live their best lives and be their best, in what they do. It's a very prideful thing to be able to be a part of something like that, and to be able to just be trusted enough to be in that situation and get to be, a member of that very close-knit family. And it was really like being with a family, because they were just really lovely people and, very appreciative. So, it was just a really magical experience for me. Very, very surreal, of course. And that continued for a while. I did a couple more gigs with them when they were touring, and then, which was really great too, because I get to sit in the studio and listen to them rehearse all the songs before they went out, onto the stage to perform them for everybody else, which was really, really fun. And then eventually, when Bono would come into town, he would just have me cook for his family, and they would have me in these amazing homes, which is where I got the song with my name in it. We also had a party one night, and Bowie came on. It was the song Let's Dance, and he made everyone sing Let's Daneen instead. So it was really funny. I was like, this is a very interesting moment. And the whole crowd of people, very interesting people, were all doing Let's Daneen. I was like, no, let's not. But I think for me, in getting into this line of work, I've been very lucky, but I've also been, I guess, inspired in a way to do what I do and not have any certainty around where I'm going, and which is really tough. I mean, I don't have the normal 9 to 5. I don't have the security of a constant paycheck. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know where I'm going next. But because I don't, and because of that uncertainty, I get the freedom to do all of these amazing projects. I get to say yes to so many different things. I would never have been able to do any of the things that I've done with you two, with the band, with a lot of the travel I've done. I've been all over the world with people, cooking for them, and I would have never been able to do that if I hadn't had a sense of just adventure and freedom to do that. And yeah, it's scary. It's very scary at times because you don't know. I mean, next week, I got to pay rent, right? And so you got to figure out where that comes from. But I think from embracing that and embracing being uncertain in a lot of ways, I've been able to be more, I guess, how am I going to say this? Be more accepting of the idea that it's going to come eventually. Like something is going to be out there. Something will come for me. I'm not going to, and I think it gets rid of a lot of my worry. That I know I'll always have something that I can lean back on to get me through. If I had to go get a job at a restaurant tomorrow, I could just go do that. It's great. I could move to another city and totally thrive there. But it's also, it's just because I've been confident in what I've been doing as kind of being free. So I think with that freedom, I've been able to kind of cultivate this life of experiences. And I think for me, regardless of the wealth monetarily, my experiences are the wealth that I accumulate. Those are the things that make the most sense to me. The things that I love the most are having these beautiful experiences with these beautiful people, and the people that I get to see and meet and the places I get to go are much more important to me than the paycheck. So I think for the rest of my life, I'm just going to be floating around, basically, and just enjoying whatever comes, and not worrying about, oh, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do tomorrow? Do I need to go find this, or chase the job, or chase the gold coin? But I don't have that pull to have to go after those things, because they eventually they will come. I just trust in the world that the things will come to me. I think, what was I actually, it's funny because I'm very antiquated myself. I did note cards today because someone's like, you can put it on an iPad. I'm like, why would I do that? I have note cards. So I do have I have a quote here. I was gonna let me find my quote. Okay, yes, because I couldn't remember the quote. So here's my quote. A person's level of joy or contentment are more a measure for real wealth than money. And I feel that every single day. And that is what I think, too, it's just a matter of investing in yourself, making sure that you're always learning and doing and putting yourself in the right places to meet the right people. This kind of thing is one of those things. I'm definitely stepping out of my box today because I'm not perfect at these public speaking things, but I'm happy to be here because I get to meet all of you lovely people as well. So I think, where are we on? Are we good? Yeah, I'm good. Hi.